Welcome to the Herald Democrat Sports Podcast. I'm the sports editor of the Herald Democrat, Jason De La Rosa, and you're listening to the latest edition of the Herald Democrat Sports Podcast. Merry Christmas, boys and girls, fans of all ages. We have reached the final week of the football season, and the Gunner Tigers are still going. They are playing in another state championship less than a week before Christmas Day. What's in store for them? What happened to get them here? We will talk about it here on the Herald Democrat Sports Podcast, which is brought to you by Frontier Golf Carts Texoma. Experience the thrill of savings to celebrate their new Denison location, proudly serving the greater Texoma area, where they're launching with the lowest prices of the year. This marks an exciting new chapter in the 11-year history of Frontier Golf Carts as they expand from their original location in Salina. For their grand opening, come see the awesome collection of new carts with up to $1,500 off, including the 2024 Frontier EV Lightning F4 with all seats facing forward. New lithium battery-powered golf carts with backup cameras and touchscreen entertainment start at $7,495. What better Christmas gift than to visit Frontier Golf Carts Texoma? Check out their website, frontiergolfcarts.com, or their Facebook page for the latest specials. Well, we've got two more podcasts brought to you by Frontier Golf Carts Texoma because we got to talk about everything that happened last week. We got championship week this week, and we got to recap it all next week, which we will do at an earlier time since this normally comes out on Wednesdays, and since Wednesday is Christmas Day, I don't know how many people are going to be listening, so we're going to try to get it out earlier in the week. I think Monday is the target to get that done, and we'll see what happens. 3A Division II state championship game coming up on Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock. You have the Gunner Tigers taking on Woodville. Both are 13-2. Gunner got here with a 42-32 win against Wall. Woodville got here with a 28-21 win against Tidehaven, who obviously we all remember was Gunner's opponent in the championship game last year. And so Gunner is here. This is their fourth straight year in the championship game, the seventh time in 9 seasons to make it to the championship game. They are going for a third straight championship, going for their 5th championship overall. It has been an amazing run no matter what happens. Going back to 2016, being in the Final Four every season, making it, like I said, 7 out of 9 years being in the championship game, to go to AT&T Stadium, home of the Dallas Cowboys, and play on that field for a title. And so far they have won more times than they've lost on that field. It's been a remarkable run. To get there, though, they had to have a remarkable victory. So we have to talk in depth about this game, this 42-32 win. It was, I think, as someone who has seen so many of these huge games that Gunner's been involved with, I think this was the toughest game at this level in the playoffs to take, because obviously, they've lost games to bigger opponents, especially this season, losing to Ann and Salina, and give credit, Salina is playing the day after Gunner for the 4A Division I championship, which I'm sure a lot of people would have been thinking that's been the case all season, but for people who watched the Gunner-Salina game, came away saying, man, both of these teams might end up at AT&T Stadium. And so Salina's there trying to finish an undefeated season. Take nothing away from them or Anna playing at the 5A level now. In a game of consequence for Gunner, win or go home on the biggest stage, I think what they did on Friday was one of the biggest challenges that they've had to deal with. I know, and I think it's the biggest in at least 3 years. No disrespect to the 2022 Canadian squad, I think going back to the title game of 2021, which was a 49-35 loss against Franklin, that was the last time I think Gunnar really faced the adversity and everything that it takes to pull off a win like they did. I think that's the first time since that game back then. I think the Gunnar Canadian game, which Gunnar won at the end, 21-20, that was a close game, the whole way. It felt very even. It was back and forth. It was obviously a low scoring game. It was all about the defense in that game and who could continue to make a stop, who could just pick up a couple first downs to try to get some momentum going, and obviously Gunnar wins it at the end. But even at the end, it was they were down, but they knew they were down by 6 to go and win the game. So to take nothing away from that game, this was a totally different scenario. This was a game that right from the start, it was going to be a challenge. A lot of people missed how much it was going to be a challenge because there was a line still out the door to get in. But 12 seconds into the game, Wall scores 75-yard pass, first play from scrimmage, off and running. And I think right then you're like, okay, this is going to be serious. Now, everybody knew Wall was going to be serious. They were in a very good position after beating Canadian. You beat somebody 49-3 that had your number the last couple of years. You're feeling good. You feel confident. You feel like you're up to the challenge of what Gunnar can offer. And first play, you're like, all right, this is game on. Now Gunnar responded, and because Wall missed an extra point on their touchdown, Gunnar took the lead at 7-6. And then Wall comes right back. 4th down play, 37-yard touchdown pass. So again, we're back and forth. This is not a team that is afraid. They're ready to go. And Gunnar was challenged. They had some penalties in key spots to let Wall continue drives. They lost the turnover battle 3-0. 2 of the 3 hurt in terms of points. Wall was ahead after the first quarter, 12-10. They were ahead at halftime, 25-17. But that's at least that's manageable. It's a one-score game. Gunnar was going to get the ball to start second half. Go down and score. Hey, we're back on even footing the whole thing. Well, Gunnar doesn't go down and score on the first possession of the third quarter. And then when Wall gets the ball back, first play for them is a 58-yard touchdown. Now, it could have been an interception. It could have been an incomplete pass because it got batted and juggled and could have hit the ground. Instead, it ends up being a touchdown. And with 9:43 left in the third quarter, Gunnar is down 32-17. And I think at this point, everybody is going, "Oh, this is really happening. This is going to happen." And I'm sure Wall felt that. I'm sure there were people on the Gunnar side that were like, "There's still a lot of time, but we're down 15 points. We're down 2 touchdowns and a conversion. We haven't looked very good." They had gone almost the whole second quarter without scoring. Their touchdown in that quarter came in the first 40 seconds. So now we've played a quarter and a half, and Gunnar hasn't done anything. It's 3 straight touchdowns by Wall going back to the middle of the second quarter, and Gunnar's on the ropes. One more score, Wall goes up. Wall goes up 22. I mean, this game could be over because now you're talking it's a late third quarter. How does Gunnar score 3 touchdowns and get the 2-point conversion just to tie and find a way to stop Wall, who is on a roll? Well, we had some key plays in the third quarter. If they don't happen, I don't think Gunnar wins. And it's easier to say that in hindsight because Gunnar comes back and does all what it does. But at the time, if Gunner doesn't, especially on their drive right after Wall goes up 32-17, if they don't go down and score, I think that game's probably over. And they put together a drive, and they're looking good, and they get to the 8-yard line. First and goal from the 8. Exactly the response that you want after falling behind on a big play, crazy play. You put together a nice drive. You get things kind of settled down. First and goal at the 8. Well, then they go backwards, and it's third and goal from the 18. And so now you're not going to run. It's going to be a pass. They know it's going to be a pass. If you don't get it on third and goal from the 18, you're probably going to kick a field goal because you have a kicker that can do that. He kicked 2 field goals in this game, so you know that's a possibility. But even then, so now you're down 32-20 with a quarter and a half left. That's still a 2-score game. So you got to get, and maybe you don't kick it. Maybe you feel like we got to go for it on fourth and goal from the 18 to get a touchdown because we can't afford to fall behind 39-20 if we can't stop Wall. So there's a whole lot on this one play. And Preston Tarpley takes a snap, scrambles towards his right, hits Mitchell Gage in the right side of the end zone. He's got his feet down. He's kind of leaning towards out of bounds. So if he doesn't catch it, it's 4th and 18. It's 4th and goal from the 18. If it's a bad throw, it's 4th and goal from the 18. But it's right on the money. He catches it. Order is somewhat restored. There's 5 minutes to go in the third quarter, but now it's manageable at 32-24. Well, Gunner's defense comes through, gets a stop. Tigers get the ball back, but they get it back at their 7-yard line. So now you got to be careful. If you get a little risky, now you're punting from your end zone, giving Wall good field position. If you make a mistake, turnover, good field position for Wall. Gunner's able to get out near midfield. Again, Preston Tarpley to Mitchell Gage. This time, deep throw, down the middle, in stride, behind a defender. There was another Tiger along the left sideline who was open too. I couldn't tell who it was at the time, but he had beaten his guy. So there were options there to get a touchdown. Gage hauls it in, 51 yards. They go for the 2-point conversion. Tarpley does a little throwback, kind of rolls towards his left and throws back to the right to wide open Dylan Tokars, ties the game at 32, and all of a sudden the momentum has completely shifted. Everybody that thought Wall had this game in hand, now it's like, well, now Gunner's going to win. You open the door for them to get back in. It's a tie game with less than 14 minutes to go. This is Gunner time. And it looked like it was going to be because, again, Gunner's defense comes through, forces the 3 and out. Gunner's got the ball. They're just shy of midfield. They're going down to score the go-ahead touchdown if this drive is successful. And then there's probably, 8 minutes left, somewhere around there. And there's a botched exchange, fumble, Wall covers at the Gunner 49. Now we're totally going the other way. Momentum back with the Hawks. They've got a chance to go take the lead now and leave Gunner with 7 minutes left, 6 minutes left, whatever. But again, Gunner defense comes through. Hayden Farrell, part of a big second down sack. Quick 3 and out. Gunner gets the ball back again. Goes down and scores. Jay Campidi puts the Tigers ahead with a 16-yard touchdown run with 6.5 minutes left. Now all the pressure's back on Wall. They've got to score. They start to put together their possession. They decide we've got to go for it on 4th down because there's a chance we may not get this. We may not get this ball again. And with 5:44 left at their own 40. The Hawks go for it, don't get it, and Gunner takes over. Brock Body picks up 17 yards on a first down run, gets in position at least for a field goal. More time comes off the clock. Preston Tarpley kicks 38-yard field goal, just under 3 minutes to go. Now it's the 10-point margin, 42-32. And Wall's in trouble. That was basically it. To win this game. Wall does get into Gunner territory. They have to go for it again. They turn it over with about a little over 2 minutes left. Gunner runs out the victory. There you go. 25 unanswered points in a game that looked like it was going to be a shootout and a half. The final 5 possessions that Wall had gained 60 yards, just as many or just a little more than that 58-yard touchdown on the first play of the second half. After that, basically nothing. The final 2 possessions, obviously the turnovers on downs. There were 2 drives where they got a first down and then had to punt. And then there was one that was just a straight 3 and out. 60 yards on 5 possessions. If Gunner's defense does not do that, I don't think they win this game. They had to be perfect. They had to keep Wall out of the end zone, period, to allow that game to finish the way it did. Because any touchdown in there that would have been a response would have put Wall back ahead. And then they've got the lead. They're not as frazzled in trying to figure out what the heck's going on. It was everything coming together to pull that off. And we'll talk about this in the preview of the championship game. Here's 2 teams in this situation. You have so many of these Gunner kids played and won a state championship last year, played and won a state championship the year before, were a part or around the program, whether they were on the sidelines or in the stands as freshmen, seeing Gunner in the championship game. And on the other side, you have a Wall team, as good as they are and as talented as they are, they had not been in this situation. We talked about in previewing this game, they had gotten to the region final 2 years in a row. Canadian had beat them, kept them from getting to the state semifinals. They had not been on this stage since 2016. Obviously, the connections between that year and this group, non-existent. And they're playing to have their best season since 2013. They're playing for a spot in a championship game and everything that means. And when it's new, how do you handle it? How do you handle being up 32-17 and feeling your sideline and your full stands and everybody full throat about, oh my God, this is happening. We're going to be the team that eliminates Gunner and goes and plays for a championship. And they would have been the favorite because if you can beat the 2-time defending champion, then you can beat anybody for the championship yourself. And I think there was a lot of we're not worried on the Gunner sideline. I feel like they thought, hey, we're going to get a score, and it's going to be a 1-point game. It's going to be a 1-possession game, and then we'll score again, and it'll be we'll either be tied or we'll be down a point because we're going to go for the 2-point conversion, and there's still plenty of time left. So let's just go. Let's get it done. We got a mission. We're going to finish it, and they did. And again, it was the balanced attack of everybody contributing. Preston Tarpley, 15 of 20 passing, 199 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Mitchell Gage, 3 catches for 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. Dylan Tokars, 4 catches for 43 yards and a touchdown. Cash Rumage, 2 catches for 40 yards. They were 2 big catches to keep the chains moving. Boston Stanridge, 4 catches for 25 yards. Again, key catches, didn't find the end zone, but kept the chains moving on a couple of key downs. Brock Body, 22 carries, 121 yards, and a touchdown. Jake Campiti, 9 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown, the go-ahead touchdown. Tarpley kicked field goals of 36 yards and 38 yards. Special teams was a factor in this game. After Wall missed their first extra point, they decided to go for 2 on the next one, didn't get it. Then after the touchdown after that, they went for 2, didn't get it. They started chasing points, and if they didn't chase points, when Gunner had gone up 42-32, that could have been 42-34, and it's a 1-possession game instead of a 2-possession game. And then maybe they don't go for it on 4th down, they punt it because it's less than a 1-score game at that point. So it's one of those games where that's a huge swing with the special team stuff. And again, it was a great effort by a defense that we talked going in, playing without its best player in Colin Peacock, who had signed with Baylor the day before getting injured against Holiday in the region final. That's a big loss, especially against a team that likes to pass. Guys filled in, guys made plays, guys were able to stop an offense that was coming up with plays all over the place when they needed it most. Wall could not run the ball for the second straight week. A team had to try to throw, and like I said, there were no turnovers for Wall, but they had the turnovers on downs. Landon York did throw for 329 yards, but he was 21 of 40. That's 50%. And again, if you take out, you can't take them out. They counted. But if you take out a 75-yard pass and a 58-yard pass, that's almost 2 plays were half of their yardage. And if you take the third touchdown, more than half of their yards came on those 3 plays in the passing game. They couldn't run the ball. They had 25 carries for 44 yards. Once Gunner settled in and figured out what they were going to try to do, especially in their screen game, they were able to really kind of shut that down, like I said, especially in the second half. So Gunner advances 42-32. Like we said, back in the championship game, going for 3rd in a row, taking on Woodville. Now, you might be saying, who the heck is Woodville? And I would say you're right to ask that question. And the reason it's right to ask that question is, one, this is a realignment situation. Woodville dropped down from 3A Division I in this latest realignment. So before this was not a team that was even on Gunner's radar because they weren't even in the same division. So Woodville drops down, and obviously they're having their best season in school history. And you say, how impressive is this run by Woodville? Well, I will tell you that this is the first time that Woodville has been to the championship game. Last week was the first time that Woodville had ever been in a state semifinal. 2 weeks ago was the first time that Woodville had ever been in a region final. A month ago, Woodville was playing in a region semifinal for the first time. This is the first season that Woodville has ever been past the second round in program history. So I will say that again. This is the first time in program history that Woodville has ever won 2 playoff games in the same year. So this is completely unprecedented for this program to be experiencing this. This is not a team that breaks through and then finds a way to come back with it breaks through with a bunch of juniors, and they all come back senior year, and it's expected. This is a group that was 6-5 last year, was 9-3 the year before, 7-6 the year before that, 3-6 the year before that. So this is a program, and again, you look at some of their from 2018 going back to 2001, they had one winning record. It has not been a team that you consistently talk about when it comes to the success. And so and I would say too, this is not a new program. This is a team that has been playing since the 20s. So the Eagles are not some this program just started 7 years ago as a new school or something like that. And so, like I said, they've had the success. They've gotten to the playoffs every year but one since 2015. They just hadn't been able to get past second round. Now, they had played a lot of really good people in 3A Division I in their region, and that was a factor. But they dropped down. They're able to put together this run. Now, they do have 2 losses. Who are the 2 losses to? Well, one of them was in district play, and that is a familiar team for Gunner people, and that is Newton was the district champ in that district. And they beat Woodville. I don't want to say handily, but 34-15 is a pretty good margin. So they beat Woodville 34-15 in their district matchup. And their other loss in non-district play was, and I know I'm gonna screw up the name. It was at Anahuac, 29-20, and that was week 2. Outside of that, you look at their scores. None of them have been close up until last week against Tidehaven. I'll just run down some scores. I won't name the teams, but 27-7, 39-14, 32-14, 53-6, 58-0, 48-27, 38-0, 61-6. And then in the playoffs, 49-12 over ARP, 48-21 over Grand Saline, 42-12 over DeKalb, 40-7 against Dangerfield, and then the win last week, 28-21 against Tidehaven. I will point out, because they obviously were on different, as we know, when you're a district champ and a runner-up, you have to go on opposite sides of the bracket. So the only way that Newton and Woodville would have played was in the championship game in that region. And this is, you want to try to compare teams, and styles make fights, and how are you that much better than, it's a circular logic. But so we said Woodville loses to Newton 34-15. Well, Newton and Dangerfield played in the region semifinal, and Dangerfield beat Newton 62-28. And then the next week they played Woodville, and Woodville won 40-7. So if you can explain how a team can beat somebody 34-15 and then lose to a team 62-28, and then that team loses to the team that you beat by 20 points, and they lose 40-7, that doesn't make sense. How does that happen? but it did. And so, again, you can say that Woodville got lucky in the bracket. They were on a side, one that didn't have potentially Dangerfield, but the team that could beat them got knocked out, and they made the most of that opportunity. And they have obviously thrived in this Cinderella story of a team that had never been past the second round, just keeps winning and winning and winning. And obviously it sets up this David Goliath scenario for the championship. Obviously, outside of Gunner, everybody's going to be rooting for Woodville. Anything that happens in this game that is good for them, everyone's going to go nuts. Everybody wants to see them finish off this amazing run. And it doesn't have to be. It didn't have to be Gunner. It could have been Canadian. Could be the 2-time defending champ. Wall could be the 2-time defending champ. Holiday could be the 2-time defending champ on this side of the bracket. Whoever it is, they're the big bad wolf. They're the one that everybody wants to see go down in this scenario. And so that's going to be a feeling in that building. Now, obviously, like I said with Gunner Wall being in the scenario of last week, this is a Gunner group. This is, again, you have seniors for the last 4 years. All you know is your season ends inside this building. You've won the last 2 championships. This could be the last game for a lot of people. You have a chance to win a 3rd straight championship. You've been there, you've done that. You know what it's like going down there in the locker room, warm-ups. You're not intimidated. You're very familiar with this surroundings. This is a brand new ball game for Woodville. How are they going to handle it? How are they going to react? What is it going to be like for them on the big stage for the first time? They've done a really good job, obviously, handling, hey, we've never been here before. We've never been in the 3rd round. We've never been in the 4th round. And it is a big understatement to say, well, it's one thing to say, hey, we're in the 4th round and we're playing so-and-so at a bigger high school stadium. It is another thing to walk into that, or to get driven into that building on your bus and say, this is for a state championship. And then you walk out there and soak it all in and feel what that's like. So that to me is obviously the biggest thing. And I will say it is sort of weird that as consistent as Gunner has been in getting to this point, they've never faced somebody twice. This is their 7th appearance in this game. Woodville is the 7th different opponent in this game. That's kind of weird. You look at some of the other divisions, you look at some of the other classifications, and there's been a couple rematches. There's been a couple, hey, you know, 3 years later, this team's back and this other team's back. For whatever reason, it's just a weird anomaly that Gunner has continued to get back here, and nobody could repeat to get back when Gunner was available. Now, Newton did go back the year that Canadian beat Gunner the first time, so you can blame Gunner for not getting back there to have a rematch. But obviously, realignment was a situation because I think Gunner Franklin would have been a rematch, but Franklin went up to 3A Division I. But that's just kind of weird. And I wonder if at this point that's one of those things that has helped Gunner, because they're always here, and you have this brand new team that has to figure out and adjust to the bright lights, and sometimes it takes too long to do that. From an on-field standpoint, I think this is a group in Woodville, from what I can tell, what I've been able to dig up and kind of look at. They have a very good running back, Tavion Hunter. He scored 3 of the 4 touchdowns last week against Tidehaven. They're more of a running team than a passing team than what Gunner has seen the last 2 weeks. I think going in, you knew Wall was going to be a big passing team based on their numbers and what they've shown. Holiday, we talked about the change there. Honestly, going back to Jacksboro was more of a throwing team as well. So you've had these 3 straight opponents for Gunner where the passing game is more of a focal point for their opponent than the running game. I think this is going to flip in this game. And I think that's the biggest X factor in this game. Obviously Woodville's very good. They've got very good athletes. They don't get here. You don't get this far if you're not that good. But the one thing that has been totally consistent through this run and in the 2 games that Gunner has lost in the championship game, you have to be able to run on Gunner to have success. The 2 teams that have done that, Newton and Franklin, had Division I caliber athletes. They had more than one of them, and they were really good at running the ball. And if they got in space, they blocked it well, it was going to go for big plays. If you can't run the ball on Gunner, you're in trouble. It's every team that they've played in these championship games that has not been able to run the ball has lost. Because you can throw on Gunner to a certain extent, and Wall showed that last week. People in the past have shown that at times. You can hit a big play, you can maybe pick up a first down, but if you're going to light a down on fire, and it's going to be 2nd and 9, or 2nd and 8, or 2nd and 11, and then you have to rely on your quarterback to make plays or your receivers to make plays all the time to keep the chains moving, that's a problem. Tidehaven found that out last year. Poth found that out the year before that. Bowling found out that the very first year, that if you can't run the ball, you're gonna have to. It's gonna be tough sledding. And again, like I said, I think Woodville leans towards their run game. They have athletes that can do that. That is probably going to be the X factor. If Woodville can have some success early in what they do, the confidence is gonna grow, and they're gonna think we belong here. We can hang with this team. We can win this game. The one thing Gunner has done, and like I said, it's a pattern. They've done it almost all the time in these games, in these championship games that they've won. They get on you, they get a lead, and they do not let you back in it. For Gunner people that have gone to all these games, that have witnessed it, you know what I'm talking about. But just to go back and look at the scores of the championship games have been, it was 30 to 14 last year. It was 42-7 the year before that. It was 43-22 when they won in 2009 against Paul Pewitt. And in 2016, it was 43-7 against Bowling. That's not normal for state championship games. These are supposed to be the 2 best teams. And none of those games were particularly close. And so that's what Gunner has done on this stage. They have jumped out, they have shut people down early, frustrated them, get up 21-7, get up 14-0, and then ride that to a victory. Does that mean that's going to happen on Thursday? I don't want to say yes or no. That's been the Gunner MO. And if Woodville cannot come out and establish what it wants to do on offense, then that's going to be a big problem. You've got to be able to put up points against this defense. Jacksboro showed that last year. Wall showed that this year. But you've got to match it with a defense that can play with you. It's great that you can score 33 like Jacksboro did last year, but if you give up 52, that's no good. It's great that Wall was able to score. Wall scored 32 points in 2.5 quarters, but they ended up giving up 42, and you're not gonna win that way. There is a reason that Gunner is the 2-time defending champ. There's a reason that Gunner is back in the state championship game, that they've won 17 straight playoff games, that they haven't lost to a 3A opponent in 3 years. And I think they're in as good a position as you're going to be for winning another title. But I think Woodville is going to play up the nobody believes in us. Nobody thought you would ever get this far. You were supposed to lose 5 weeks ago in the second round, like we always do, and we're here, so let's go win the whole stinking thing. That's going to be the battle cry for Woodville. They're going to say all the pressure is on Gunner, and all the pressure is on Gunner. There's only a couple of defending champions, let alone 2-time defending champions, that got this far. Most of them got eliminated, and everybody expects Gunner to win. Everybody is looking at them saying, okay, well, they're going to win. A lot of people felt that last week the winner of Wall Gunner was going to go on and win the championship. That's been the case for some of those Canadian Gunner battles. Everybody said that state semifinal is for the championship. If you get past that, you're going to win the whole thing. And I think there were a lot of people that felt that was the case last week for Gunner Wall. I'm really excited for it. I've covered, all these state semifinals. I've covered all these state championship games that Gunner's played in. This one is one of the intriguing ones. I think with some of these other ones, you kind of looked at it going in and you're like, I just don't know how that team can play with Gunner. And in a couple of those cases, it proved very correctly that wasn't the case. But I am intrigued by Woodville. I am intrigued by what they're going to bring to the table on Thursday afternoon. So it's going to be fun. The state championships are always fun. If you've never been, whether it's to see a local team or not, so many of the matchups are really good. Not that I need to sell you on some of these things, but you look at the records, you look at the teams, you look at it's 4 days from the 6-man games starting on Wednesday to the biggest of the big dogs on Saturday night. You just look at some of these matches. I think if you go to the Gunner, game, you want to stick around for that 3A Division I game. That game between Malakoff and Columbus. There's a lot of people who think that's the game of the week. If you're going to pick one game, that's the game to go to. South Oak Cliff is trying to be like Gunner, going for a third straight championship. Obviously, we talked about, if you're looking at teams from this area, Salina is playing on Thursday. By the time you hear this podcast, Munster may have already played their game. But obviously, if you're a Collinsville person, you're looking to see if Munster goes on and wins the whole thing after beating you. And unfortunately, that would mean the Pirates would have lost to the eventual champion the last 3 years. But Munster's playing on Wednesday night, or played on Wednesday night if you're listening to this after the fact. Carthage is back in the state championship game. Obviously, Van Alstyne people know about what Carthage has done to them recently. Highland Park is here. South Lake Carroll is here this week. Austin Westlake is here this week. There's always great stories. There's always really good matchups. We talk about 15-0 versus 14-1, 15-0 versus 14-1. it's just there's so much good football, so many great players, and if you've never been, it's close enough being here in North Texas to get to go watch. If you can't make a full day, you got to work or you got school, but you can get out there for that 7 o'clock game one of these nights, or go on Saturday and go to all three games. It's well worth it to go experience it, even if you don't have a team in the hunt. It's definitely worth it to go watch the spectacle of what it is if you haven't been. So we will see Gunner versus Woodville, 3A Division II state championship, 3 p.m. Thursday, AT&T Stadium. Will Gunner get a third straight championship? Whatever happens, we will talk about it next week on the podcast, which, as always, is sponsored by Frontier Golf Carts Texoma. Experience the thrill of savings to celebrate their new Denison location, proudly serving the greater Texoma area, where they're launching with the lowest prices of the year. This marks an exciting new chapter in the 11-year history of Frontier Golf Carts, as they expand from their original location in Salina. For their grand opening, come see the awesome collection of new carts with up to $1,500 off, including the 2024 Frontier EV Lightning F4 with all seats facing forward. New lithium battery-powered golf carts with backup cameras and touchscreen entertainment start at $7,495. So visit frontiergolfcarts.com or check out their Facebook page for the latest specials. So again, if you're going to the game, have a good time. Maybe check out one of the other games while you're down there. We'll talk about whatever happens next week here on the Herald Democrat Sports Podcast.